Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North Podcast, got another super special, awesome human for you today. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thanks to my buddy, Mr. Eminem, all the way from the land of Canada. That's right, folks. We're calling it Canada so much on this podcast that folks might eventually start calling it Canada instead of Canada, folks, because today's author in particular, my goodness, not your ordinary man indeed, because he started writing at the age of 14, y'all. That's right, 14, y'all. That's right. And not only that, my man has been growing up and has been expressing himself creatively in multiple ways because he's an accomplished tango dancer as well as a musician. And he has impressed audiences from all over the globe, from the West Coast all the way to New York City, with his drama and grace on the dance floor. So let's give it up for the wonderful GEP himself, the one, the only, Gregory Erich Phillips. How you doing today, Gregory?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. As a legendary wrestler, Booker T would say, it's on like neck bone, man. Glad to have you on. Oh, man. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But as you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 55 days and 6 minutes long. So am I filling in any cavities I missed about you?
No, your introduction was great. It's like you said, started writing at a young age and just came out with my third novel. So it's been an exciting time.
There you go. Some Three Amigos, hat trick, trifecta swag. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. 3 novels. My goodness. So what's inspired you to start writing at the age of 14? Because if I'm not mistaken, the writing's in the family, right?
It is. Yeah. My dad was a novelist. And so I just grew up watching him write and, figured I'd go into the family business, as it were. So, I think growing up in that atmosphere, I didn't realize that it was supposed to be hard to write a novel, because it's like, well, my dad can do it, he cranks them out. And so I just did it. And when you're a kid, you approach things differently with, I think sometimes with almost a reckless confidence that you often lose as an adult. So, that first novel, wasn't any good, but, I finished it. And then I just kept on writing, kept, coming up with new stories. It eventually improved my craft to the point that, a publisher picked me up in time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Love what you said there about the reckless confidence. My goodness, wish you would keep that longer. Like, man. And you found the secret to keeping that confidence, man, with this whole adulting thing that happens to all of us.
Yeah. Adulting is overrated.
Yeah, it is. It's like, oh, yeah, feel invincible. Let's take on the world. And then out of nowhere, if folks don't stay in the gym and they don't stretch themselves daily, they're like, oh, crap, my bones are creaking. Yeah. Oh, no.
You have to keep stretching your mind, too. And I think a lot of people, it's tempting to just get sucked into the daily, not just a routine, but the stresses of jobs or family or just, the day-to-day adulting. And then we forget to stretch our minds. And I think that's one of the things that's most important. And for me as an artist, both as a writer, a musician, and a dancer, those artistic pursuits keep my mind young, I think, the same way that a gym will keep your body young.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I gotta have that brain do some mental yoga, y'all. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's right. So that means we all have to wear yoga pants on our heads now, y'all. I'm telling you.
I didn't say that.
Gotta stretch your mind somehow, right?
Yep.
It'll make for some semi-great bunny ears.
Hmm.
Oh man. But hey, it's not about yoga pants on the head. It's about embracing the creativity that's in the family. So my goodness, since your dad was also a novelist and you got three of your own coming out, my goodness, what was it like to get the first one out, man? Because I'm pretty sure it felt like a world championship one, man.
It did. It did. It was so exciting because having been doing it for so long and having had that dream for so long, that first one was just, it felt very validating to me that, okay, this is good enough to get out in the world now. And well, really with all three of them, just the first time I held the book in my hand was sort of a surreal moment.
Yeah, that's right. It's like ain't no ghost did this. It was me, darn it. That's right.
Yeah. And this last one, in a special way, because I think that my new novel, A Season in Lights, it's really my most personal novel yet. It has so much of me that I put into it. It's about there's two main protagonists. One's a dancer, one's a musician. So I put my own knowledge of those things and of the theater world into the novel. And then the conclusion of the novel, I wrote a new ending about a year ago, really in March of last year when the pandemic started, and incorporated that into the end of the story and showed what the effect of that and the shutdown of the performing arts had on these professional dancers and musicians. And I felt like that just really then brought the novel to a whole new level.
Well, yeah, definitely could say that again because my goodness, that Grim Reaper year 2020 was rough for everybody, especially the entertainment industry, because
Yeah.
Hollywood actors they were like, "Oh crap, I'm broke,
Hmm.
can't perform, can't make movies. Oh shoot, don't have a stage, can't get that little adrenaline rush from the stage and the people. Like, oh crap, I got to do the Zoom crap now too. It's like, oh man."
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, from the entertainment industry, my goodness, so how was that? Because I'm pretty sure there was probably no tango dancing unless you recorded yourself.
Nope.
And
Nope. And fortunately, I don't rely on performing arts for my livelihood, but I have many close friends who do, both in Seattle and in New York City. And, it was devastating for people who work in that business, both financially and emotionally, because obviously their income is going to dry up without shows, without performances, but also it's their identity. And I struggled with that some myself, not being able to go out dancing for over a year. Uh, and so that's really what I wanted to show in the novel was how this how this affects those people, and how it especially with the piece with their identity. The financial piece, it's easy for us all to realize, but uh, it's for a lot of people who work in performing arts, just you know asking who they are after this, and how they're going to survive it and make a comeback, or for some people maybe not. Maybe they choose to go into something else. But it's just really it's been a very serious, difficult time for people in the performing arts this last year.
yeah, man, it says something really important, just that loss of identity. Because it's like some people, they may have lost a false identity and realized, oh crap, I have this really new identity, or maybe this hidden identity that's been buried for so long from all this
Yeah.
nonsense that I put in my life.
And that's a part of it too. I think there have been some blessings with this, for me at least, of just simplifying life a little bit during this time, and um, not not relying on, like you said, those false identities.
Yeah, man. Yes, it did. So with that, so it's probably been one of the greatest gifts you got out of the pandemic, in addition to publishing novel number three and making it so close to you.
Yeah. So I would say the other blessing I've had is that um, I've gone back to my own music. a lot. And I had, uh, in particular, I've been playing the piano a lot, almost every day during the pandemic, which I hadn't really played piano in years since I was a young, teenager, really. And that's just been something that for me has been a real blessing. And it kind of inspired by writing the book, because one of the characters is a piano player, and I wanted to learn one of the pieces of music that is kind of a theme in the story. So I taught it to myself, and I just kept on playing. And that's been a real blessing for me. Another blessing I would say is that even though I used to have a very active social life, and during the pandemic, I feel like, while that went away, my friendships with some of my core friends really deepened, because we all had to be much more conscious about who we were spending our time with. And so that's also been a blessing, is that I feel like I have deeper friendships now with those core people than I did before.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Indeed. That's right. That core. That's right. That six pack right there. That's right. That's right. Indeed. Yes, indeed. Because it's so darn true. Like, heck, tough times make tough people tougher, especially when
Yeah.
you can really go through the tough times with other people. So that makes
Hmm.
us tougher together. So that's freaking awesome, my man. That's freaking awesome indeed. Yes, indeed. And my goodness, playing piano again. So do you think there might be an album coming out soon?
No, it's just for me. It's just for fun.
Oh man. So for those who need to grab this new novel, what can they expect? Just give them a little taste of what to expect from novel number three, since it's your latest and greatest thus far.
Sure, yeah. So it's called A Season in Lights. It's a story of passion, ambition, and escape set in the colorful artistic underworld off Broadway in New York City. And with the story, I wanted to show not the people who are, making it big in New York and on Broadway, but the people who are just hustling, to in the small little back alley theaters, just trying to scrape together a living, because that's the reality of most people who go to New York City as artists. And the story tells two stories in parallel. One present day about a dancer who comes to the city and gets her kind of first big break in a show. And the other storyline is about a young man in the 1980s who similarly comes to New York City. He's a piano player, and he's trying to make it in the classical music world. And their stories converge in present day. And in the section that covers the 1980s, it deals a lot with the AIDS pandemic at the time. And then the contemporary section then deals with COVID. And it's so interesting how the novel came together, because I'd written the section about the AIDS outbreak long before we even knew that COVID existed. And it gave it a natural parallel between the two storylines. Um, I think that people who've read it find that it's a very enjoyable story. It's, gives you a kind of a little taste of the backstage life of these performance artists. But of course, it deals with some serious themes too.
Oh yeah, definitely can see that again. Yeah, because it's like when you're out in lights, like, yeah, I feel like I'm at my best, and then behind closed doors backstage with a lot of performers, it tend to be a little different for quite a lot of them, I can imagine, because a lot of them they may take their pain and just transfer that into their performance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. It's like heck, even uh like the legendary Shawn Michaels professional wrestler, like in the ring, like that's really where he felt like he could really just be his best, like especially back in the 90s when it was his really dealing with that drug habit where he,
Hmm.
behind doors he was basically a druggie, and he had to basically transform his life for the better and find religion and basically
Hmm.
help himself get better from that, and just being given some ultimatums like, hey, you're either gonna die or you're either gonna live for your family. So
Yeah.
it's rough, just the backstage life of just performers.
Mhm.
Yes, indeed. So, any advice for those listening right now who are fellow performers in the field of arts, whether it could be the regular arts of dancing or music or any form of entertainment that may be going through some dark times right now, some inspiration for them?
Well, I would say just keep creating whatever you do. If you're a performer, if whatever your art form is, just keep creating stuff. For me as a writer, it's important to just keep telling the stories. If you're a dancer, a choreographer, come up with new things, even if you can't perform them yet. That channel the frustrations of these times into um, a new creation. If you're a musician, if you're a composer, you know, pour the emotions of this into your music, or again, whatever the art form it is. I feel like there's going to be so much beautiful art that comes out of this pandemic year, but it's hard to motivate yourself when you're feeling down or depressed or wondering where your next paycheck's going to come to. But all of that stuff can become such beautiful art.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Preach it, man. That's right. Keep on creating, y'all. That's right. Keep on creating. That's right. Even if it feels like it may not be your best work, funny enough, that might not even be for the person who's creating to decide, because sometimes the audience still likes something that you may have thought was a throwaway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, heck, even some listeners, they were like, oh man, like this episode, man, this was freaking amazing. I'm like, wow, that's good. That's freaking good. Like, I almost didn't put that one out there. Like, all right. It's like, yeah, man. So definitely so darn true. Definitely so darn true indeed. So since you're on this tour of being on the wonderful mic across the globe via online, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're being interviewed?
Not really, because I feel like there's always interesting questions that come up, and the just connecting with people through this medium. It's actually been quite exciting, because my previous two books, I just go to bookstores and give the same talk every time. But doing things like this, it's allowed me to connect with people all over the country, even all over the world, and get into dialogues that maybe are not what I would have expected. And I love seeing where the conversation goes, especially when I talk to people who've read my book, and they're just how it affects people and how they respond to it has just been fascinating.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Definitely fascinating indeed. And it's kind of hard to take the same talk everywhere you go now, these digital platforms. It's like, oh crap,
Exactly.
whoa, we've heard them before.
Yeah.
Let's see if we get something new out of them.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, man, because so darn true. It's like, yeah, oh, new medium. All right, new book, different type of book, different content. So,
Hmm.
my goodness. So, for those who haven't yet gotten comfortable with going that deep within themselves to really go the creative path, they're looking to write like a memoir, maybe even a novel, tongue tied, a novel based loosely off of their life or parts of their life. Any advice for them that may be a little scared to go a little too deep to dig in for content?
Sure. That is always uh, a challenge. It's kind of one of the fun things about novels, because when you're making it up, I don't have to tell what parts of the story were drawn from my own life and which parts I just made up. A few people might know, but generally I can keep that a little bit um, under wraps. And so it's a way to put yourself out there a little bit more than you maybe could in a memoir or another nonfiction platform. And I think it's also an opportunity to say things in ways that will get people thinking, which I like to do in my novels, without without them really seeing that you're trying to make a point, whether it's on a piece of social commentary or something like that. You can be a little bit more discreet with that in novels, and because of that, I think it's actually an incredibly effective art form.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You could probably put a little scene in there about painting poodles when it's a metaphor for something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It's like this man carrot keeps on painting poodles. I wonder why he keeps painting poodles. And then you're just laughing in your head maniacally. It's like, oh, you don't want to know what I mean by painting these poodles. Oh man. Yeah, it's definitely so true there. The advantage of novel instead of full blown memoir. Cause like, oh, I can exaggerate a bit or maybe
Mm-hmm.
undersell it, depending on
Yeah.
the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. Something to take home with you. That's right. That's right. Something for listeners to take home with them, indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I would say not to take things so seriously. I think young people just take things very seriously. I know I did when I was in my mid 20s, and life is just funny and random and beautiful, and as I've gotten older, I feel like I've learned to just go with the flow of it a bit more, and appreciate the process. And for me, with my writing, that's been a real lesson, because I used to be so focused on, I have to get this published, I have to sell so many copies, and now I just write because I want to create a story. And I think that has improved my novels, because I'm not really worrying about the end result. I'm just creating and enjoying the flow of it. So that would be the advice I'd give to my younger self, is just relax with it. It's all going to happen as it's meant to be.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. So what if it's a 10,000 piece puzzle? It'll all fall into place eventually.
We would hope.
At least 8,000 of the 10,000
Yeah.
pieces. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it seems to be a bit of one of the trends of some of the advice because, like, oh, yeah, the 20s, especially nowadays, it's like, oh, you gotta adult yourself so darn fast. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
you gotta really be ultra serious and stern. It's like, oh, man, like I see almost buddies on social media and they're doing these extraordinary things. And truth be told, it's just a highlight reel. It's like, got to do all these important things. Like, nah, just chill a bit. Be all
Yeah.
right. Just don't take it too seriously. Like everybody doesn't have to be a 40 under 40 listy.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But for those who want to buy 40, if not 400 copies of your fabulous books, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you and keep up with what you're doing?
Sure. So my website is gregoryerichphillips.com, and Erich is spelled Erich. So spell the whole name out. You'll find me. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram via the same thing, Gregory Erich Phillips. The book is available through Amazon or your favorite local bookstore. Just if they don't have it, just tell them you want it. They'll order it for you real quick. And pretty much any place that books are sold, you can find it.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it indeed. Check out all the links to some of those magical places in the show notes. Buy some copies of his magical books. Share with your friends, your family, your cat, your camel. Heck, even share with an apple pie. Take a selfie next to the apple pie with the book, indeed. So you can let the world know, it's like, hey, this is a heck of a great novel, indeed. It's so novel. Had to take a wonderful picture with an apple pie because of it, indeed. That's right, indeed. Yes. Indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop, my man?
Thanks to you and thanks to all my readers too, who've been giving such a great feedback to the novel so far. It's just that's what an author loves to hear is when people are reading it and enjoying it. It's just there's no better feeling for an author. So, keep it coming.
This is your host, Don Brightman. Hope you enjoyed what you just heard. And if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you're listening to. And subscribe to hear more because more is coming your way to advance you further than before.